We're live for Cosmic Forecast, Cosmic Contemplations, Conversations. We are coming here with Ashley, Bella, and Benjamin. And we're going to be talking about the transits. We're going to be talking about whatever comes up, basically, because right now we have gate 57 and 10 active and 20. And so we kind of have that intuitive presence in the now. So we'll see what comes through.
Yeah.
How are you guys doing?
I mean, it feels like a certain day for me with the 4/4/2020. There's definitely something with that. And maybe it's kind of hyped up with the meditation, everything this evening. But there's definitely something that feels quite powerful.
Yeah. So the have you read anything about the 444 portal? I haven't read anything, but obviously it's kind of cool that it's happening as we are transiting into the 51. So that is a portal in and of itself. So that's kind of cool. What do you think, Ben?
Well, I haven't read so much about the portal. I know like a couple of people just messaged me a few days ago and they were like, "Hey Ben, what do you know about the portal that is coming this weekend? What have you heard about the 444?" And I was like, "Well, I honestly don't know. You guys are just like teaching me something new, like you guys giving me an information that I didn't even know. So I cannot really position myself with this portal and what's going on energetically this weekend, but I can really tell that's going to be a powerful weekend, and the next few days going to be really interesting to have a look, especially because we are in gate 51, which is arising, the gate of the shock. And it's arising from the ego, from the ego center. It's the split in the stream of the mysticism. The stream of the mysticism starts in the root center with the 1949, this channel, the design of being sensitive, going to the emotional center, and then we're going through the channel of community with the 4037, and this is when it separates. Because the collective, the bargain, is meeting the ego, and the ego is like, okay, I'm done with all this shit. Now I'm gonna do my own things. So it is either going, to the 51/25, then going to identity, or it goes with the 21st 45 direction to the throat. But the stream of mysticism is really going from 1949, 37, 40, then 51, beginning of the awakening. The gate 51 is the gate of the warrior, is the one who's going to shock the community. He's the one who's like, hey, I disagree with all this shit. I don't want to do this anymore. So the potential of going into incarnational love with, the love of the spirit, returning to innocence with gate 25. And then the stream of mysticism continue to gate 10, 20. So we are in this energy at the moment. So yeah, I really invite people to pay attention, to really observe how they're going to feel for the next couple of days, because we really have this channel of awakening. The 2010, a design of commitment to higher principle. It is all about listening yourself in the now, so you can get a direction, so you can fully connect to your higher self and listen yourself in the now, and to bring this higher principle into your life. So that's kind of very interesting where we're going and what is happening.
Yeah, I did want to mention something about the 51/25. Because I love this channel because it's cool that the shock and the arousing always initiates you into love, into that greater spirit. So
totally.
With what's going on right now, a lot of people are in the portal of their own fears, and that's what Richard calls the shadow title in his book. He says the portal to the portal of fears. And basically we're all traveling into that. If you can initiate yourself and take that step forward despite feeling the agitation, the fear, the anxiety, whatever you're feeling. If you can just take that step forward and listen to spirit and say, what is this calling? Where is this calling me to? And deep into your fears, you can awaken to whatever it is you're meant to awaken to. The shock is going to awaken no matter what.
And I mean, if you have a look, what's the harmonic gates of the gate 51 is the 25, and 25 innocence, the gate of the spirit of the self. So it is all about initiation. It's life shocking you and initiating you to return to what? Innocent, unconditional love, to return to your spirit. And that will give you what? An identity, a direction. It brings love. That's the G center.
Yes. I love it.
Yeah, very interesting.
And there's a lot of stuff floating around, like conspiracy theories and talk of saving innocence, and whether this is true or not, because we don't have any hard facts or things that have come to the light. The truth has not surfaced to come to the light yet. It's all, soldiers are going underground to rescue kids and all this stuff. It can be true, and it can also be a metaphor, because that is what's happening here, is, like you said, returning to innocence. And it's helping you remember your innocence too, because I feel like a lot of people who have that like pull and affinity to believing that this is true. I'm not saying it's not true or it is true, but believing about like the sex trafficking ring and all these children and people being saved. It's like, how deeply do you feel pulled to that fractal line of the violation of innocence? Because that is what is happening here, is we're being shocked back to reclaim our innocence and shocked back to reclaim our own independence and creativity, because the 21 is about going first too. It's the initiator. And so it will jump in first. And it is leading you back to your innocence so that you can experience that and reclaim that almost. Like, can you remember? And not reclaim because you always have it. It's just, let's shock us back into resetting,
Totally. Yeah, totally.
What do you think, Bella, about all this stuff? Or did you want to talk about something and leave on into something else?
Yeah, I mean, I was tuning into the things that you said about the 25 and also the Earth that is in 57. So I don't have 51 in my chart. I don't have it in my human design. And I feel like having the 25, it's like, it's a hanging gate, and it's looking for shock. It's looking for initiation. And also the 57, there's a programming partner. So I feel like if there's like one gate that kind of has to do with my life, it's the 51. So also just seeing that maybe somehow the shock for the 51, if you have it in your chart, is almost normal. Like, because you're here to be thunder, you're here to be shock. But if you have the 25, it's almost like you're always, grasping after that shock, because you're here to have all these experiences that are, at the end of the day, you're going to be able to say, okay, there's nothing else to do than returning to innocence. Like, there's no other way. And that's what I recognize myself a lot in. So yeah, I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, totally. If you have a look in a more deeply aspect of the channel of initiation, the 2551 is also the channel of the shaman. So it's the pre-trace, it's the most mystical channel in the human design. The ego, comparing to the sacral, the ego is not something that is consistent. It's do I have the willpower to go into the shock or not? It's not like a sacral who is generating energy constantly. Sacral people, we do have this energy. It's consistent. It never stops. It's here. But the ego really needs rest. And the ego function, like sometimes you do have the willpower, so the will to go shock regarding to bring back the innocence. Or the ego is just, okay, right now I need a rest. So for those people who do have an ego center defined, one of the most important things to understand is that it's not occurring like consistently. It's sometimes we need to rest. And I say we because I do have an ego center and I do have the 2551, and I know I need to rest. And sometimes nothing happened. I just rest. And then when I'm really off track, I can feel it. It's a huge shock from life, and it's a big return to innocence. And the willpower is here. The willpower is here to go through initiation, to go through the darkest time, whatever, that will bring me back to innocence. So yeah, it's a very powerful channel and very interesting to have a look.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to ask you, Ben, because we have been looking with genetic matrix at life cycles. So right now, for example, in my life cycle, I am the cross of penetration, and it's actually it's this cross. Now, I can't remember I think that 51 is my purpose. So somehow there is a theme. So when you work with people, how do you bring in their life cycles, like the Chiron return, the Saturn return, and look at that as a theme for them, or how do you feel about life cycles?
Question is, to be sure I really understand, it's just like general question, how do I feel about life cycle, correct?
No, so in astrology, we make a chart, right? We make a chart for the solar return, we make a chart for the Chiron return, for the Saturn return, and then that chart that is on that point in time of those returns of the planet, that becomes like a theme. So some people, especially in astrology, there are those like, Chiron return reading. So, and before I wasn't like really into that, but there was something when Genetic Matrix, when I got that program, that I actually started looking at. I had somebody yesterday who was right on the Chiron return. I'm like, this is so relevant in order to, like, if I look at the natal chart, if you say, we don't say that in your human cell. If I look at the original chart and the Chiron chart, there was just like too much to not be a coincidence, it felt like. So I was wondering if that's something that you use or if you don't.
Okay. Yeah, it's something definitely that I do use, but my understanding and what I've learned by using, so the Saturn return chart or the Chiron return chart is it's like same as the transit. It is not you. You're born with your chart, and when you're born, you have your chart, and this is you. This is your imprint. This is the blueprint. This is your genetics. This is your mechanic, and that is you. You can trust it. It will never change. This is you. When you have a look on Saturn return or Chiron return, well, it is an influence from the micro and the macro. That's the program who is influencing you at this particular moment of your life. And it's really interesting to have a look because it gives you some details, some tools on how you can manage whatever you are experiencing during this time, and being aware that it is not you. It is influencing you. It is moving you in a different direction. It is moving you to feel or experience different things, but it is not you. So, like, for example, right now I'm at the end of my Saturn return, and I'm going into another phase into my design, and that will be until the Chiron return. And I'm an emotional person at a moment, defined by the program. But my birth chart, I'm a non-emotional person. So I need to be aware on, when eventually my mind going to be like, oh, let's take a decision. Let's do this. Let's do that because I'm feeling emotional, But I know this is not me. I know I'm just like influenced by the program. I know I'm influenced right now by the planets and everything that maybe pushed me to have this desire to have an experience or sexual experience or having a romance with a woman or looking for more passion or looking for more, whatever the case is, based on the openness of my design and then the conditioning that is during the cycle. So does it make sense to you? And is it
That's
correct?
Very similar how Ashley and I have been referring to it. It's actually, Ashley, doesn't it sound confirming? Isn't that like very similar to what we have said?
Yeah. And you know what? I love that you brought it up because it does relate to what we're talking about, because I almost feel like the Chiron return, the Uranus opposition, the Saturn return, all this stuff are portals and ways for us to initiate. right? It's like
Yeah.
it's like something that we can take action on. It's like, oh, this is what's available to us right now. It's sparking something in us, and it's going to then you can take that door, and it's going to be like a theme of your life, but it's not you. It's just a theme that's running. It's an experience that's going, but that doesn't mean
totally.
Bella is the cross of penetration. I think what it means is that it's just the adventure she chose to take part in. It's like, oh, here's a question going on, right? But that's not her. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. You know, it's like you watching a movie. You know, that it's basically human design says you are passenger consciousness. You're watching the movie, so the movie is your life. And I mean, you have a specific scene, you know, during the movie where, you know, the main character is going maybe through hell or going through this ocean and like diving and blah blah blah, but it doesn't define the movie. It's just a part of the movie. Or it's like you reading a book, you're just reading this chapter, but it doesn't define the book, it's just the chapter. So that's the way I see life cycle, you know. And what's funny, I'm actually very looking forward to be at the end of my life, because I'm gonna be like, oh, everything makes sense. You know, I can put all the pieces of the puzzle. You know what I mean? So it's exactly what Steve Jobs say. You can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect the dot looking backwards. And life cycle for me is exactly the same. Right now, you may be in the middle of a storm. People are gonna feel like shocked the whole week. The whole week they're gonna feel, you know, rising from something to something, and that's gonna be an awakening. That's gonna be a shock to return to the innocence. And I really invite people who are looking the webinar today to really pay attention on the next few days. What is coming to them? It's a shock. It's a call out from your own bullshit to be able to return to innocence and to awaken yourself to higher principles.
I have to say something when it comes to like all these terms that we use. So, you know, in universal love, return to innocence, like could we could we speak a little bit like in a practical sense in a human life? What does that even mean? You know, like can we touch a bit upon that so it doesn't become just words?
Yeah. Well, I'm just gonna give you an example. You know, that I'm gonna share my experience. Yesterday it was still gate 21, line 6. I was feeling shit. The last few days, like, I was feeling shit, crap, stuck in my mind, crazy. I was feeling bad. I wasn't feeling good at all. And the reason why, I was too much stuck in my head. You know, I was stuck in my mind. I was stuck in I don't know what, but it was nothing from the heart. And last night I was like, okay, I need to do something. I need to just lay down and breathe. You know, I'm gonna breathe for at least an hour. I usually breathe every day, but today I really need, if I know if I want to wash out something, I need to lay down and breathe. So last night around 10, you know, I lay down and I breathe for an hour. And I practice, you know, this technique of breathing. And after 10, 15 minutes, I started to go in hell. It was just crazy. 30 minutes of breathing, I was shaking. I was so much vision, and I was getting shocked, completely shocked. And after 45, 50 minutes of breathing, I just cry like crazy. And I cry for maybe 20 minutes, just crying, so much sorrow and sadness. And it was just a massive shock to return to innocence. To, you know, Ben, shut the fuck up. Stop with your mind. Stop with the ego. Stop with the, you know, I post something this morning on my Facebook. I say, you don't know what you think. You don't want what you think you want. And that was me for the last 7 days. I thought I wanted this, and I was trying so hard to have this, because I thought with my mind, oh, I thought I should do that. Oh, I want this. I want this. You know, most of the time when we want something, we don't really want to have it. You know, we think we want this. And that's how we create suffering. And that's how we get stuck in the head, in the mind, and that's the pain. So after breathing for so long, the big shock was, hey, you don't want all those things. Just go back to innocence. Go back into your heart. Go back, center with yourself. Surrender. Let life bring to you what is correct for you. So in a more practical way, using all those terms, it's very simple. Surrender. Let go on what you think you want. Because most of the time, you don't want to have this. And when you return to innocence, when you just find 5 minutes, you sit, you breathe, you come back to who you truly are, the pure spirit. We are pure spirit. Well, then you realize, and you have the awakening, but actually the only thing I need is to breathe. The only thing I really want is love. The rest is an illusion. And this is why when you have a look on the stream, of mysticism, the gate 40 is the deny, is being in the deny. And you break through the deny with the power of the ego, the willpower, to enter into something that is more meaningful for you. So you get the shock. That's why the name of the gate 51 is rising. It shocks you to go into the self, the spirit of the self. So into who you truly are. And then you can see identity, G center, and you go into the 10-20, that's the end of the stream of mysticism. And the 10-20, well, is commitment to higher principle. The gate 10 is the gate of the behavior, behaving correctly for yourself. It's the gate of self-love. So you bring self-love into yourself by listening in the now to what you say, because it brings you to higher commitment. It brings you to higher principle. So that was my experience last night, and how funny, I completely forget about coming into the gate 51 today, the gate of the shock. So after my experience last night, I checked the transit and I was like, wow, yeah, this is powerful. I was stuck for the last 6-7 days in my head, and I couldn't get out of it. And I needed the shock to say, hey, Ben, stop being so stupid. Enough of being stupid. And I just get back into, more unconditional love with myself, so more centered. That's maybe what people can experience at the moment.
Yeah, I think for me, taking a bit of a Jinky perspective, for me, I feel a lot of a 6th line in the attraction, which is the design moon in human design, and the 6th line there is called innocence. So it's the other pole is disappointment. So if you think about a child that comes into this world and has all these visions and is very innocent and naive, and then a lot of things happen, especially in sexuality. Like we think it's something like princesses or princes we come in, and then it's not what we think. And then all life that's the 25. I feel a lot too. Like life gives you one after one, and you're like. And it's almost impossible to maintain that innocence. You become disappointment. But if you stay in disappointment, the more you stay there, the more you're out of the G center, out of knowing who you are, what love is, where you're going. And that's so what I feel for me is that if you don't let the disappointment have a hold on you, if you can, like you also said some 6-line words, which is surrender and let go, to remain innocent whatever happens, and to have the eyes of a child, whether it's sexuality, whether it's the world, whether it's anything. And for me, that helps me actually to go back to also understanding the 25 the gate.
Yeah, totally. How was your, by the way, just because I'm thinking of it, and how was your last few days, from gate 21? How was experiencing for you the last few days?
I mean, for me, in my personal, I don't know. I know that I was, I guess that sometimes I was bored in my calls, and I was like, I could feel like an inner authority that kind of had to speak and be like, not because I wanted to control, but it was kind of like, what are our values here? That kind of like, well, a willingness to kind of be in the will center and stay and speak up for that authority. And then I feel a little bit more for what was going on, like in teamwork and things like that. I could see the 21 coming up, and both shadow and I was like, wow, okay, this is what it is. Now I understand like what it is in team dynamics.
Yeah. 21 was like super strong. The gate 21 is mostly like the desire, of controlling the resources in the tribe, and that's what I was experiencing for the last few days. I was stuck in my mind trying to control my finance, trying to, okay, how can I make more money? Like stupid things. And because I have the ego, so it was really strong willpower, and I exhaust myself the whole week, like being so stupid trying to control finance. Yeah.
What about you, Ashley? How do you have people with the 21 around you as well? I mean, we were speaking with Danielle earlier in the week a bit about this, but is there anything that stands out for you now that we're getting out of the transit?
Yeah, I found that what was really cool was obviously in being involved with you in understanding control and teamwork and understanding I don't know, it's like the power and the roles of different people, and like other people controlling the resources or controlling the people. And I found myself in my family, I had these things that my ego was like, I want this to get done. I want these things.
Mm-hmm.
And my kids were like not about it. And I was like, guys, we have to do this. And Justin looked at me, he's like, do they look like they want to do that? Do you have to do this? Why are you trying to control them? And I'm like, ah. And I then I took a shower and I was like, let's set this down because I don't need to do this. But there was something in me that says, I'm feeling the urgency to do this because I'm like training my kids to be able to see with their light. And if you miss a week, you got to start all over. And so we're missing a week and we're going to have to start all over again. And I was trying to pressure them into doing it. And the last time I tried to pressure them into doing it, both of them didn't see. And I was like, damn it, you try to control and push, and like it shuts down their light and their innocence. And they're like, this isn't fun. And I was learning this time was you can't force the kids to do this. And I was trying to control it. And then now moving into 51, I've like surrendered that control. So I surrendered the last day of 21 because I was looking at it from a different perspective. I was in the 6th line being like, oh, okay, this is what's happening. Because my projector husband was like, why are you trying to control them? And he used that word and I was like, okay.
Wow, yeah.
So yeah, and I have 51.6 in my attraction sphere.
Okay.
And I just want to mention something about it because I feel that I'm like an eternal child. I'm kind of silly and goofy and a little bit naive sometimes, but that's because I have not been jaded by really hard experiences, and I have not. Everybody around me has had a lot of patience with me and allowed me to be who I was. But if I were to be oppressed by anyone besides myself, or controlled or any of that stuff, I feel like if someone told me you live in it, I mean, people have told me you live in a fantasy world, and I'm like, yeah, but that's what keeps the dream alive, And I feel that because I'm able to retain that innocence, and despite being disappointed sometimes, I still go back to the innocence, and I still have been given like patience to like create this container for myself to evolve and awaken. I haven't really struggled too much with the disappointment of as much. I mean, yeah, I have my own stuff that I go through personally since the 51 is in my attraction sphere, which does have to do with sexuality. And because it's also connected to life force, when I do feel the shadow 51, and it's not necessarily a shadow, in my body, it feels like this vibrating like thunder. Because it's thunder over thunder, right? And it feels like thunder, like I'm literally shaking. And I'm like, I know that I have to take action. I either push it down and like shrink, or I have to like let it like surrender to it and see what happens. You can react and it kind of blows up, but you feel the agitation inside, and it's so scary. It's like the scariest feeling ever because it's like tremors of fear is what it feels like. And yeah, that's kind of what I have experienced with the 51. Yeah.
You also have the 57 in your sphere of relating, which is your personality Mercury. So, and I have that one, which is my design Mars, my vocation and core belief. So I know, I mean, that's also that the agitation and ease in the body is so, I mean, we're speaking about a splenic gate when we speak about the 57. So it's very instinctive. It's very much in the body, which is,
yeah, interesting, very interesting. Yeah, and today is the first day of the gate of the shark, the arousing first day, and I think the so line 1 is the reference, and the line 1 is really about the advantage of the previous crisis experience. So I'm very interesting to see like what's gonna happen for the next couple of days, because are we gonna take advantage of the last 10 days, the crisis, and finally bring some shock into humanity that is based on the crisis, based on everything that happened the last few days, are we going to finally shock something, change something? So I wouldn't really be surprised that for the next few days, something big, may happen on Earth.
Yeah, I guess only time will tell. The gate that comes after this is 42, so we really need to be careful of our expectations of what's gonna happen. This is also
cycles of life and death. It's like don't react to the cycles of life and death.
Yeah, totally. The 42 is really the only one who can end something. The 42 is the end, is the death, is end of something. So yeah.
I'm excited. We shall see and have no expectations. So here's the ray of mandala so that we can kind of see where we've been and where we're going. So let's see. 36 was that storm that came through, right? The crisis. This is where a lot of the stuff came to a head with the coronavirus and stuff like that. And then moving into the 25, which is universal love. And then love of the greater spirit, and then 17, omniscience, farsightedness. We had the call with Benjamin last week about the previous Saturday, and then the 21, and now we're getting into the 51, moving into the 42, which is endings, and then the 3 is almost the same. It's again another opportunity to return to innocence, but it also feels very like fresh and innovative. So when things end, what's going to be creative out of that ending?
Yeah, the 3 is really what I like about the 3 is the difficulty at the beginning. It's really the gate of ordering, so putting order, and we're gonna face difficulty at the beginning. It's a very individual gate, and it really works as a pulse. Harmonic gate, gate 60 from the root center, which is the gate of limitation, and they create a channel of acceptance. So accepting that we are limited. And beginnings doesn't always come when we want. It's a pulse. So it's gonna be patience, being ready, and when the pulse is here, limitation up and energy is coming, and we're gonna have some difficulty at the beginning always, but we will have this energy to engage and to rebuild whatever needs to be rebuilt.
Yeah, and actually it would be interesting to see, because suddenly I could see the 60, which was in the beginning of the year. I almost feel like you and I, in our work, there's something, the energy that comes from the sacral center with the 3rd gate is going to kind of, connect us back to that 60, that maybe what was the limitations then. There are like new structures, new things, like that acceptance that is coming through. That's what I can see for us. I want to like track that.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Because here we're creating that container. We're seeing what do we need to build, what do we need to create, and is this leaking energy? Is this correct? And when crisis comes or shock comes, it's like, do we need to take down the structure? We need to have no expectations of where this is going, or if we think, oh, this is going to be forever, and it's not, and then it needs to die. And then what happens? We're going to be presented with a new opportunity, a new portal, a new door to walk through, because that's what the 51 is actually doing, is like opening a new door too. It's like, here, come into this. And so you can't have any expectations about what's behind the door. Like right now we can just a lot of people are trying to predict the future, and they're trying to say like, oh, this is happening, and this is what's going on behind the scenes, and this is what's happening in the underground. It's like, but do you really know that? And when we have those expectations, we're just gonna set ourselves up for suffering or disappointment, and we really just need to be present in the now. And that's the beautiful thing that we have. I mean, we have the 57, the 20, the 10. It's all giving us access to be present in the now.
In the now. Yeah, completely. It's in the now. Like the big 57, 20, 10 is the integrating channel. It's integration channel, you know, and it's all about being in the now. When you just keynote those gates, well, what does it say? It says, in the now, you know, gate 20, the gate of the now, I'm speaking in the now, and I empower myself based on my intuition so I can survive, and I empower my behavior in the now to get a right direction, to move in a correct direction in my life, so I can empower myself and I can keep myself healthy and survive, and, you know, in the now, which is very interesting. And if you have a look, like the 51, the real definition of 51 is the ability to respond to disorder and shock through recognition and adaptation. So it's the ability in the now.
In the now, through recognition. And what? You said through recognition and adaptation.
Adaptation, yeah. To adapt yourself based on, to respond to the disorder. So to respond to chaos, to respond to whatever it is. Like gate 51, you know,
and we're not in the emotional center, people. When you get the gate of shock happening to you, don't react based on your emotions. Let yourself have that wave. Oh my gosh, that was a shock, right? But let yourself acclimate a little bit and then adapt and then respond. Because if you're just reacting off of emotion, people are going to feel that fuel for whatever you do. And you're planting seeds with every action you take. So if you are reacting off of something that's fear-based, that's the seed you're planting. Is let's just plant some more fear. Let's just like send more ripples of fear. If you can take responsibility for what you're feeling and what kind of shock it is, and let yourself ride the wave, because it's gonna feel like thunder first. Like you're gonna feel that, oh my God, the tremor, the anxiety, the whatever it is. But if you can like hold that energy and circulate it, it's gonna like boom, open up a door for you. But if you just react, you're just going in all these directions. But you can channel that energy and kind of like, I don't know, I don't really know where I'm going with that, but I can kind of see it and visualize it. I kind of want an experience, but I don't know what I'm asking the universe for. Give me an experience so that I can understand it.
The two of you are non-emotional, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. Actually, would you like
nothing, zero.
Oh yeah, you completely open. Okay, so would you like to talk a little bit about this, because I believe it's very important. I had this morning I was with one of my master, Manesh. I've been studying with him for the last 8 years, and we were sharing about emotional center. I find this emotional center one of the most fascinating ever in the human design. You know, this difference between non-emotional being and emotional being. And most of the time, the emotional being are the one who don't even realize that they are emotional. They don't even understand what it means. And they are the one who accuse us, hey, you're so emotional. Obviously, we just amplify everything, you know, but at the root, we're non-emotional people, and it can be very confusing. So would you like to share your experience about this? And
and there's something else that I think that is super interesting, and there are other dynamics too about open emotionals that are also really interesting that I discovered last year. But your basic question, for sure. I mean, I feel like my whole life I was flooded by other people's emotion, and I learned to know if somebody just breathes. I know exactly if they're in a good way, like in a good state or not a good state. That's to the point where I because I was also around people that weren't like balanced. So as an open emotional, we have that like everything filters through us, so we can become so refined, you know, in our ability to know about emotions, which is also what can come back in wisdom, as when we don't, like, you know, act from the not self and start
Yeah.
to tiptoe and wanting it to be nice and all these things that are in not self.
Yeah.
Mhm.
What about you, Ash?
I think that we all develop kind of coping strategies for feeling emotions of somebody else. And I feel like the way that we can get conditioned to sweep things under the rug is because we start to learn at a young age, that our actions can stop the feeling inside of us if we can like not trigger the other person, right? So we'll like do things to make sure that we don't have to feel the emotions. Like they can't control when the wave comes or not. They can't let it go. They just got to ride it. But for us, if we know that we can push a button or not push a button, we can control the wave. And I think that's also what we're getting wise about, is knowing what pushes buttons and what doesn't. And if we want to protect ourselves from not feeling their anger, their like sadness or guilt or embarrassment, like I would never provoke somebody to feel embarrassed. If I know it's going to make them feel embarrassed, I would never do it, because I get so uncomfortable to feel shame in somebody else. I'm like, oh, let's not go there. Like, even watching movies, when you see like even YouTube videos where people are getting hurt, me and my husband, we can't watch those, because how is like people getting hurt or embarrassing themselves? That's not funny for me.
Yeah.
Like feel it. I'm like, that's not cool.
Yeah. Well, non-emotional people, for sure, we are like massive sponge. We absorb everything, and I think what you just said, before, like warning emotional people to not take decisions spontaneously, like reacting to a shock. It can be the same warning, like the same prevention to non-emotional people as well, because a non-emotional person can go through a huge emotion, but it's not them. So it is also very important to have a look on this and to not take emotional decision, like spontaneous, emotional decision.
I have a question. So this was part of what I realized. So when I'm around emotional people, they can kind of, they are in a good mood or in a bad mood. And sometimes, really, I don't logically think, I have a lot of like logical circuitry. I don't logically can see that there's a reason. Like I know that they're in a bad mood, but there is no logical reason for that to be. I mean, I know it's funny but it sounds funny. But so that's one part. What I've realized with non-emotionals is like, if a non-emotional feels like has some kind of emotion, there's always a reason. And even if the non-emotional says, no, don't worry, I'm fine. Like, I know that there is a reason, like there is something under the covers. And that's sometimes the hard thing between two non-emotionals, because we don't want to put that on the other, because we know how bad it feels to put, to have somebody else's emotional weight.
Well,
so that is also something in relationship non-emotional with non-emotional.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's like, how can I say? It's like, okay, I'm French. I speak French. For me, it's normal. I mean, it's normal for me to speak French. So if you try to learn French or to understand the French, no, that's maybe not the good example. How can I put it this? An emotional person don't realize that they have those emotions, that they really don't realize, because they're born like this. They're born with it. So for them, it's normal. Oh, I'm going up and down. Oh, I have this. It's like, it's part of who they are. So they don't even realize that people can be different. It's like us with a sacral center. I mean, when I have a projector coming to me, the first things I'm telling them is, I study a lot projector, but I have no idea how it feels to be you. I really don't know. Even if I study it, I have no clue. And that's the big difference between the emotional and the non-emotional. What I feel from my experience, and I think you can relate with this, but emotional people don't realize how they really impact us. By going up and down, by having this pain and avoiding the pain and trying to go back up again, trying to feel good again. And they broadcast such a chaos. It's chaos. chaos frequency in the world, and they don't see it.
I think we need some emotional person here to actually speak the truth. My
Yeah.
diplomat, my Libra is coming in here. Wait a moment, this is not
Yeah.
fair.
But and it's not about blaming, by the way. It's really not about blaming or shaming them, or not at all. And I really like something that Russ said. Russ said we need open center and we need defined center. Like, I'm an ego person, I have an ego defined. The only way I can see that I have an ego defined is when I hang out with those undefined ego. Because I realize, oh, they don't have the same willpower I have. And they're going to come and challenge me. And they're going to say, like, hey, I dare you to show me that you can do that. Prove it to me. And when someone say, prove it to me, and it resonates, and my sacral is like, I'm like, yo, yeah, let's do it, and I can feel, oh, that's the ego power. It's the same with someone who have an ajna. I mean, open ajna people are here to challenge as well the ajna people. I'm gonna ask you, okay, show me how do you structure? Okay, I dare you to structure everything and to show me how logical these things is, because for me it doesn't make sense. It's not logical. Just show me. So I can actually challenge you to use your ajna, to put everything together, to be logical, to be structured, So that's also the gift of non-emotional people, is to be able to recognize the emotion and just to go challenge the emotional person and to say, hey, how do you feel right now? Do you feel like low? Oh, you do, see? So to help them to see when they are, where they are in the wave.
Yeah, and also that the wave can somehow, it can be a peak, it can be a wave. There's so many different ways of the emotional to function. And yeah. And also I think one more thing worth to mention for people that are non-emotional, or especially that has nothing in the emotional center. When we are around emotional, sometimes it's hard to know what we feel because we're so overwhelmed by the feeling of others. So that's why sometimes we don't have a reference point even for our own feelings because we're so overwhelmed by that other wave or peak.
Totally.
Yeah. And I feel like as open emotionals or non-defined emotionals, we are able to experience the breadth, like the whole emotional spectrum. Whereas people that have a defined emotional center, you could only have access to a certain amount, right? Like you have certain things that you're feeling consistently. And it's like a pattern. It's almost like they have a pattern. And that's what helps them understand, oh, this is how I get emotional competencies, about listening to my emotions and seeing what my wave is like, because one person's wave is going to be different than another person's wave, depending on like what's activated in that emotional center. And with an open emotional center, we're going to feel all the different variations. So it is a little bit chaotic too, to feel that, and we can feel it before they even feel it. Just like someone who has a defined spleen and that reflector, that person that has an open spleen, is able to sense if they're not healthy or they are, based on what's going on there. So it's like being able to read, because they're plugging in and you're receiving information, and you're here to like mirror, not project, like mirror back. Like, how do you feel? Like, that's a great question to ask an emotionally defined person, because they are emoting. We don't emote. We just process, right? We're not creating emotions. And the thing that I wanted to mention with the emotional authority and people that have that defined emotional center is they're not really empaths in a way that people with open centers are empaths. Yes, they can recognize the emotion in the other and they're registering it, but they're registering it through their filter of like, oh, this is how I would feel if I was sad. But you can't necessarily feel the sadness of the other person. You know what you feel when you're sad, and so that triggers in you, and you're like, oh, okay, they're sad.
Yeah.
Not that you're feeling their sadness. Does that make sense? Because a lot of people ask me about that. Like, everyone's an empath. It's just the way that you read the information is a little bit different.
Yeah, totally.
Somebody had asked us to discuss the nodes, but I don't think that we have enough time today to do that. So maybe next Saturday we can go into the nodes.
Maybe if there is anything else like that is connected to what we already said that is unclear, or anything, we can take 1 more minute and see. But otherwise, I feel like a 45 minutes is kind of, what I was saying this week, I've been on many calls, and I some of the calls have been 90 minutes, 120 minutes. And I realized, and I have open head and ajna, like I kind of want to turn off my camera and start to like put my legs up in the air and stuff, because it's like,
Yeah, I think for honestly, for this one, with like 50 minutes, it's a lot. We have been talking a lot, but like get 51, there's no much to say. It's just gonna be a shock. That's it.
Let's stop on 51.
Yeah. You can't predict it, guys. You can't go past 51, because then you're gonna have an expectation. That's kind of like, you don't get to know how it ends, people. It just ends.
Yeah.
Whatever's gonna end is gonna end. So like, stop trying to predict.
Yeah.
You can also it's true for you. Like, it's like not in the wider scheme of things, like the collective and the world, because there's so many moving parts, but you can definitely feel into what's right and correct for me in the now, not tomorrow, like right now. What's good for me right now, and that's all we can ask for.
Nice. How do you guys feel?
This is some anticipation for something. I don't know what it is.
Okay.
Yeah. I feel good. I'm excited. I kind of am like, I just asked for shock to happen so I could feel what it feels like. Is that good? I just asked the universe for that. What's going to happen to me?
Yeah.
But I'm open, and I will fill you guys in if anything does happen.
Yeah.
What shall be shocking? Who knows?
Nice.
Let's see. No more questions.
No more questions?
If you have questions, you can, as you're watching the replay, we'll come back and answer that as well. But
and I guess we could say also we are planning to be live next Saturday at the same time. It's our little Saturday come together.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty cool. Pretty cool doing this this little update every week on the transit and on what's going on, and answering questions from people. It's really nice. So yeah.
Someone wants us to talk about spaceships.
Oh. Well, I'll tell you what, it's kind of funny because with what happened the last few weeks, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised that during the week, the gate of the shock, we're going to have alien invasion, That would be a shock.
You mentioned that in our chat. I'm like, let's just hope they're not reptilians. Good guys. Thank you so much, Ben and Bella, and it was an awesome little chat, like always. So cool. You guys can join us next week at the same time. Thanks for joining us live or on the replay. We really appreciate it. Have a wonderful day, everybody.